Welcome to the Fuel, Move, Recover podcast. This show is a complement to the content found at advancingathletics.com. We welcome you into the FMR family, but remember the topics we discuss are not clinical recommendations or medical advice. Howdy, everyone. Welcome back to the Fuel, Move, Recover podcast. This is episode 7. My name is Michele Iono. I'm joined by my teammates, Alex Uding.
Hello.
And Lindsay Malone.
Hey, everybody.
I'm like fighting off laughing for everyone because we just, are back on the subject of nipple lubing versus lipple noobing. So I've taken Lindsay's advice. Everyone will be very proud of me. And I've just started to not wear a shirt now.
There you go. That's it.
But because I'm hairy, it's really hard to put sunscreen on my body because I feel like I'm just like swirling all the hair around.
Have you tried the Neutrogena 100 Ultra Sheer?
No.
It's really good. Comes in a spray bottle. My husband uses it. He's very fair. And it's great. And it's like you don't even feel like you have it on. That's what you need.
Yeah, the spray approach.
That's but again, idea. It gets caught in the hair. I feel like, so I learned my lesson that even with the spray, I still have to rub it. Because when I was living in Pensacola, I had the spray stuff and I looked like a red tiger when I got back. Because there were just lines of protected skin from where I just sprayed it haphazardly over my body. So, but I got fleas then too. So that was a bad summer. So yeah, I'll tell that.
I'll stress, right? Fleas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is our complement to what we do on our website, and we welcome everyone, the free listeners and our members, and you guys are a part of our crew. That's why we make the point to start every episode, with just catching up about life and things of that nature. So as usual, why don't we go around the room and see if anybody's drinking anything and how everybody's day is going. And full disclosure, I mean, I guess your guys aren't going to hear this until you hear it, but we're recording on Friday afternoon for logistical reasons. So this won't be up until hopefully Friday evening or Saturday morning. But anyway, so we're either day drinking or being responsible. We'll see. Alex?
I'm drinking some ginger tea and my day's going pretty well. It's like overcast here in 60s, so it almost feels like a fall day. So I'm in a sweater, just kind of cozied up, but pretty low-key day here. So I've got some meetings this afternoon, but that's about it. So I'm excited to record. It's kind of kicking off my day a little bit. How about you, Lindsay?
My day is going good so far. Middle of quarantine still here. So my husband worked this morning. I'm working this afternoon. We're sort of juggling. And I am drinking, actually made a smoothie because it's Friday afternoon. And it is with Amazing Grass. Have you guys heard of Amazing Grass, or do you?
Mm-mm.
So it is like a greens powder. So I love it for the end of the week when like you have to go shopping, you're like all out of everything, but it's literally like powdered greens, and I blend it with frozen pineapple and frozen mango and just water and ice, and it's like a nice green refreshing drink that has lots of vitamins and minerals. So that's what I'm drinking.
Sounds good.
So that's just like a product that you can buy on the internet?
So Target actually started carrying it. It used to be like Whole Foods, Amazon. Now Target has it, and they even have little portable packs. So let's say you're traveling or something, you want to make sure that you're still eating fairly healthy. It's great. So yeah, I usually just get it. I use a company called Emerson, which does like supplements and stuff, and I get it through there. But it's a good, you know what I'm talking about, when you haven't had time to go to the grocery store, or like you're at the end of the week, and it's just a nice way to make sure you have some good nutrients. So that's what I'm drinking. What about you, Michele? Are you still on the streak and what are you drinking?
Yes, I'm still on the streak. I already ran this morning. It's, as you can attest, Lindsay, the weather is so beautiful today. It's warm, but not like, or at least not yet, I guess, not like oppressive.
Mm-hmm.
And especially I ran this morning because I knew we had this. Um, and so it was so nice. It was like 70. It was a little bit breezy. There were some clouds. It was just, here, I'll show you. I took a picture. Um, this makes for good podcasting, showing pictures to your teammates. But
Ooh, that is nice.
it was so pretty. Oh my gosh, it was so nice. And then, what was cool is that see this. I mean, it was like borderline kind of creepy, so I didn't post it. I mean, I did post that picture, but like, there's a couple kids there working out. See them? And
Yeah.
I went up to them and I was like, "Hey guys, like, I was listening to this podcast by Jocko Willink, and he talks a lot of. He's a former Navy SEAL. Talks a lot. I feel like I've mentioned him before on on our podcast. Well, I was listening to his podcast, and he's talking about extreme ownership, and essentially the point is that we would be organizations, teams would be a lot better off if everybody took ownership, because then the buck doesn't get passed anywhere. Well, these young men were totally taking ownership over their performance, because here they were, 8 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, and they are at the stadium on the field working their tails off, doing drills, just the two of them, and then a third kid came as I was leaving. So I was like super impressed by that they were there, So I had to dab them up. Today was number 85, 86, 88, day number 88. So the streak's still
Wow.
alive.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I was down to 213.1 this morning. So my
That's great.
goal, my goal is under 210. So, but now, Lindsay, I'm definitely like, I can't get away with like, just like I'm trying to eat well. I'm trying to practice what I preach, practice what you preach. And then it's like a lot of fasting and just a lot of calorie restriction. I mean, when I was like 250, I could afford to do that, but it's definitely getting harder now. Like I noticed a difference in the energy now
Mm-hmm.
that I've lost like almost 40 pounds, So now I'm having to be more strategic about my fueling and trying to do that, because I can feel myself starting to crash.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a fine line there, because you don't want to eat so little that your body then starts down regulating your metabolism. So you want to make sure that
yeah,
you're eating enough. Um, but I mean, you've been successful so far and your activity level is high, right? Because you're doing like projects other than
yeah,
just running.
yeah. So yeah. So and I'm trying to keep my eating within like the window,
Mhm.
and the 12-hour window, and then also I'm starting to add in more like other whole foods like dried figs and nuts, and I'm starting, and then on top of that, like I make the point to make sure I eat a larger, like well balanced meal, like at dinner and that kind of thing, to make sure that I'm getting adequate nutrition. But now I'm really having to fuel. Now that I am getting leaner, I'm running harder and faster. Like today, I did 4 miles barefooted on the turf.
Wow.
Um, and they were all sub 9-minute miles. And so, like, if I'm not fueling with workouts like these, like it gets like a lot harder.
Mm.
And like, there is nothing I love more. I'm a sensory seeker. I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point in time, but um, I it is so nice to go on the turf field and run barefooted. I don't know, like I am
Mm.
like a 37-year-old kid, so that's a part of it.
That's cool.
Okay, so then for today, we are going to be talking about my article, and it is all about how to actively attack stress. As the listeners should know by now, that I am the recovery lead, and as a part of how we describe the recovery section of the FMR system is broken down into 3 components: active recovery, passive recovery, and mental skills. So active recovery is what we're talking about today. So the the biggest thing is that with stress is you appreciating that it is a natural thing and something that is better embraced rather than just avoided. Because remember how I've talked about before that we're trying to get away from calling stress or thinking of stress as simply a negative thing. Oh, and by the way, I'm drinking water, and it is approximately room temperature water, Lindsay. So I'm definitely on Team Alex when it comes to, you know, not drinking.
Temperature of beverages.
Yes, yeah, for sure. So, but
I, on the other hand, so I have mine in like the Yeti with the metal straw because I want it like as cold as humanly possible.
absolutely cold. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's
Borderline
talk
like brain freeze.
Yes,
brain freeze.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Are you, Lindsay? Are you a water snob?
I mean, I drink filtered water, but I don't buy like designer water, if that's what you mean, like Fiji or whatever. Is that what you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, the only thing I do like mineral waters, like the naturally sparkling mineral waters. Well, I guess I don't know if they're naturally sparkling, but Gerolsteiner and Topo Chico. Have you guys had those?
Mm-mm.
I've
If
heard
you
of them, but I haven't
like
had it.
carbonation, they're so good. And they're
Oh,
just plain. They're
yeah,
not flavored.
yeah.
So, yeah, and the Gerolsteiner has naturally, so it is like natural mineral water. It has more calcium than a glass of milk. So, you ever have someone who's like not eating dairy and they're like, how am I going to get my calcium? That water has like 30 or 40% of what you need in a day.
Wow,
That's good to know.
Isn't that crazy? From just like the
that is
ground.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I just, nature is
Fun
just
fact for the day. Yeah.
so badass. I know. And I was trying to accuse you of being a water snob. Look
Yeah.
at me now. I feel really shitty. How about you, Alex?
No, not really. Same. I drink it out of a filter because the pipes out in New England are really old. Um, but yeah, no, I'm an open opportunist in the water game.
What's the opposite word of snob?
Uh, not sure.
Hmm.
Because I'm
Yeah.
trying to think. I don't I don't remember what the opposite of snob is, but that's what the 3 of us are. Because yeah, my can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So all of a sudden it felt like my ears were underwater. But um, we have well water, so it is very flavorful, and I will drink it straight out of the hose. So that's how snobbish or anti-snobbish, whatever the opposite word of snob is, that I am when it comes to water. Even though I will say I love me some Fiji. Every once in a while when I'm traveling, I'll get a bottle of Fiji, and it's like I don't know if it's like the placebo effect, and that like I'm like, man, I'm convincing myself it tastes really good because it costs, $5 for
It does
12
taste
fluid
good. I mean,
ounces.
it tastes like smooth and it's better than soda, right? So it's like
Yep.
if I'm going to spend $2 on something to drink, might as well be really good water.
Yeah. But then I'm just as happy too with like the jug, that they sell of the store brand that's like 84 cents or
Yeah.
whatever. So, I dabble on either end of the spectrum. I'm on a few spectrums if you guys haven't figured that out yet. So this is yet another one. Okay, so back to my article. So uh like one of the main sections I have on there listed is stress is unavoidable, identify it and address it. And this is just getting to the point to where there's a variety of different ways that we can experience stress, and it's less about in this one way, it's less about the kind of stress that you receive and more about what you're going to do about it. So it's more, we don't want you to feel like you're a victim when it comes to your day and it comes to your stress or whatnot. Because if you start to think about it from a procedural standpoint, then it allows you the opportunity to simply uh, identify it just like the title says, or the subheading is that you can figure out what it is, what kind of stress it is, and then you can make sure you can incorporate it. Just like at the end I wrote, the stress, good or bad, your body and mind retains will accumulate, good or bad. So, and that just makes the point about how if you take the initiative and incorporate whatever you did into your routine, then you'll either minimize the bad effects or maximize the good effects. That brings me to our first question from one of our patrons. And remember, if you go to advancingathletics.com, you can also become a member. And one of the many perks that you'll get with your membership is being able to submit questions to the show. Just like Mike I does, saying, what are some good stress tests to take to determine your stress level, i.e., see, there you go. For example, written or physical. Are there differences from mental and physical stress tests? Could you be mentally stressed and not physically stressed, or vice versa? So, the first thing I'll say is that there's two different ways to look at it. One is that, yeah, there are different kinds of stress tests, the tests to scales and whatnot, like the perceived stress scale. You can go online. There's proprietary things. They'll answer you questions, and it's a combination of, are you feeling irritable? Are you having like weird symptoms like like headaches, and you're feeling a pounding or achiness in your chest, almost like these panic attack kind of feelings. There's things like that. And then also, if you can get in,
Constipation, right?
Yeah.
yes,
Because your digestion, so, like, if you ever find yourself, like, before a presentation or something, you're running to the bathroom, or if you've had a hard week at work and you're having trouble going to the bathroom, it's like usually people are one way or the other, and it's like those stress hormones just stopping your digestion, basically. I mean, that's
yeah,
I think, a really good indicator.
Yeah.
exactly. And that's my second point, is that rather than just simply relying on a 5-minute questionnaire, in general, my advice would be, if you're going to Google stress test, or mental stress test, or how do I measure my stress level, the longer and more involved it is, the better indication that you'll get, because it's going to ask you more questions. And to be honest, I think a large part of taking these inventories, these questionnaires, is you have been forcing yourself to thinking about what you're feeling and what your routine has been like in the last week. It'll say like the last week or the last month, because that's my second point, in that sometimes what you can do instead, rather than taking one of these formal tests, is start paying attention to your body or your mind, and kind of like Lindsay said, um, like, what is your regularity in the bathroom? So that's a really common one. The other thing too is that, like, are you snapping? Are you being snippy with loved ones or friends or coworkers? But you have to be aware of like what your general response is, or how you interact with these kind of people in your life, or else you're not going to have anything to compare it to.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say, like, something very similar, and I think we might have talked about this. I think we talked about the last episode, like, how short or long is your fuse? And if your spouse or your partner at work, or if they do something that normally wouldn't be irritating to you, but all of a sudden you're like, why are you chewing so loudly? Or whatever the case may be, that's a sign, like, if this wouldn't normally bother you, then you're probably inching up on that stress meter.
are there other indicators? What other like common indicators are there, Lindsay, that can help people identify that?
When you're or that specifically, I mean, there's a lot of different things. You know, we think about sleep and how well you're sleeping. Cortisol interferes with your sleep too. So if you find yourself waking up unusually early, like you're still tired, but you're waking up and your mind starts going, that's an indicator that like your cortisol levels have started to go up. And that could be because you're thinking about things that you have to do that day, or you're thinking about the previous day. So
Mhm.
interrupted sleep is a good sign. And I always think
Yep.
of, if I'm feeling really angry and I can't articulate to the person that I'm like upset with, like, why are you doing, X? Like, if I can't articulate it, sometimes to me that's a good sign, like maybe there's nothing wrong. Maybe I'm just upset because I'm stressed, and like I can't put it into words because it's nonsensical, because it's just because I'm stressed.
Mhm.
And I think too, so many times it's like multi-layered. Like the thing that you might be triggered by in the moment might not be the thing that is the root of actually what you're stressed about. And stressors can present themselves in different ways. And that's why certain things that aren't a big deal sometimes become a big deal. Or there's this accumulation effect of everything that it finally builds to a point. And so that's where I think identifying your stressors and when you note sensitivities or changes in your thinking, how you're feeling. Um, I think another physical like manifestation that people have with it also can just be like people start generating stiffness somewhere and holding on tension in a muscle group somewhere. And I think different people have different locations where they hold their tension. And so I think that can be an indicator. So like body scanning and just seeing like, am I getting tightening a part of my body for some reason? And can I let that go? Or, deep breathing to kind of bring your state down and just recognizing, you know, maybe something triggered you, see what the trigger was, and then having that recognition point of, am I actually upset about this, or is it coming from something else, but enough has accumulated that I feel it now? And I think especially when you reach that point where the thing, like you said, Lindsay, something that wouldn't normally annoy you suddenly annoys you, like that should be the indicator of, okay, I need to take a step back, kind of evaluate things so you can look at, was it this single incident or was it from something else? And you can start kind of seeing where you're at and what you can address or need to address.
So the next part that I talked about in the article is a thought experiment, and it just, makes the point about how things add up, kind of like what I said a moment ago about the accumulation. So you envision going to a classroom and you're trying to learn something, and the instructor is writing on the board, and then nothing get erased off the board. You can imagine her kind of walking around the room like Bart Simpson as she's like slowly filling up all the chalkboards with writing. And eventually, if the rule is she can't erase, or if nobody takes the initiative to clear up the board, then she's having to start to write over things that she wrote over before. So you can see how it very quickly becomes completely nonsensical, and the productivity drops to almost nothing. And if you think of your body and mind as the board and life as the instructor, and then if life is the instructor, then stress is the writing. So if you don't take care of that stress on your body while you're trying to move along, or while you're trying to progress through life and deal with life, then that can become an issue. So then the next part I talk about is that, taking care of it, actually the active recovery portion. So doesn't it just like take care of itself, right? Well, sometimes, yeah, it actually does. So proper successful recovery is really two things. It's proper nutrition, or timely nutrition, and then uh, reactive actions. So sometimes those, if it's physical stress, then you have to take aim at the restoration from that physical stress, versus obviously if it's mental stress. So you want to be able to develop these skills and do them purposefully instead of just automatically. Like, like if you normally don't make the point to eat after you work out, but you just so happen to be going out to dinner this one time, well, then you're going to get some proper fueling, even though you didn't mean to, or you have a physical job. Um, and so you're up and moving around a lot, or like student athletes at college, they have a hard workout and then they have to go walk around the campus, so they're getting some low level blood flow continuation of activity unintentionally. They didn't even mean to do that. So we want to start to actually ensure that you're doing these things purposefully, so then you can be sure that that recovery occurs even if life starts to get crazy, so if you mean to fuel, so like Lindsay has said before, you need to have something. That's what I talk about then also. Well, so let me hold off on that for a second. So just a good example is like if you start back at the gym, you do a leg workout, your legs are really sore, and most folks are familiar with that leg soreness the day after. Or let's say that you live in you're a first responder and you don't see a lot of action, I guess, wherever you work at, and you end up having some major thing go on. Like near Amish country, there was this huge fire and they had to have fire trucks come from all the neighboring towns. So they got so much more work maybe than what they'd been used to. But the point is that in that situation, then in these scenarios, you're going to feel the physical effects a lot more than you normally would. So what we want you to do is kind of keep going and kind of be able to incorporate that into your routine rather than simply shut down. And now all of a sudden you just spent 3 or 4 days as a bump on the log, which actually has an overall, an accumulative net effect of a negative, instead of you in taking that into account and then kind of moving past it. Or it's like something traumatic happening, something impactful happening, and then you need to be able to come away from that with an appreciation for the positive things in life rather than dwelling on the negatives, because they are really negative. And some of these things, we're going to get to one of our questions actually.
Well, I think it's kind of like what we've talked about before, where it's you have to have this, it's beneficial to have a proactive approach to things. And so, like we've talked about with nutrition, or like last week about what can you do before you get a side stitch that maybe could prevent it from happening in the first place. This is the same thing. It's developing that active skill set for your recovery techniques, because some of these techniques take practice, and it's figuring out what techniques work for you and help bring your level of stress, physical or mental, down. That it becomes a proactive approach, so then when you do have to apply it in the moment where something does go maybe not to plan, or a situation is much more stressful than other situations have been in the past, at least you have techniques that you have done before that have helped, and you can apply them. And hopefully, even though the event was different and maybe less anticipated or whatever it might be, you can turn to those and hopefully get through the aftermath of it a little bit easier because you've prepared.
Yeah, I think also, we think about with everything that we talk about, I think there's like a tendency for people to be like on or off, and that middle ground is so hard for people to kind of wait around in. Um, but the gentle activity, that moving without necessarily like going all out, like you mentioned with student athletes walking around the campus. Um, it all has a place, but I think it's really tempting to be like, oh, I'm eating like super healthy, or I'm eating crap. There's like no middle ground. Same thing with exercise,
Yeah.
movement, all of it. I think like that middle ground is sort of where like the magic happens, that your body like regenerates, becomes sustainable, more, and that goes for, everything: stress management, exercise, food.
So talking about just addressing some of that stress and just dealing with some of that stress. Another member writes in, Anthony P, and says, I watched a man die in a car accident right in front of my eyes. So I know the importance of talking to someone after an event like this. It really helped me out. And sometimes after a long shift, I have a hard time decompressing before I get home. So my biggest thing, so it's hopefully that Anthony is continuing, either maybe not with the help, maybe not just only with the help, professional help, seeing somebody, but hopefully he's talking maybe with coworkers or he's journaling, because forcing yourself to write things down always helps you process your feelings and your emotions, helps you kind of helps you kind of understand what you've been thinking or feeling. That can be really powerful. The other thing too is that compartmentalizing work from home. So I'm sure you're ready to really get home as soon as you're off your shift, but having a routine set up so that you separate your work life from your home life. So maybe you change at work, get out of your uniform. Don't go home in your uniform. Make the point to do that. You know, maybe you get in your car to come home and just sit peacefully for 5 minutes. Use one of the mindfulness apps that we talked about. Learn how to deregulate. Learn how to process what you're feeling, and then go from there. I think that this is what I mean, is that it kind of works on its own sometimes, in that, or it just simply kind of just does its own thing, because you kind of are decompressing. Maybe you're listening to the radio, you're kind of jamming out, or the weather's nice, or you're thinking about whatever fun things you're going to be doing with your family, your kids, or whatnot. So I think that's one way that you can kind of deal with like just the everyday stress. Obviously, it's great that he did talk to somebody. I don't know if it was mandated or not, but it sounds like that would be a pretty challenging thing to experience. And I'm sure that lots of first responders see that more than once in their career. So it's not like it's a one-time thing.
Yeah, I think the compartmentalizing and trying to set up like that routine is a great way to like have that transition between those two areas. And I think that, a lot of times that will will show in kind of like how you interact with the people that are in your home, or your other interactions after work, as if you've mentally like kind of taken a step back from the stress of that situation and kind of walked into this new, hopefully less stressful situation, and you won't bring some of that stuff with you. But the clothes, I mean, have we talked about this? The clothes cognition. It's so it is basically that like your mindset changes, based on what you're wearing. And a lot of that research is more recent, with like people working from home, and get in your work clothes, don't stay in your workout clothes all day like I do. But that like something changes in your brain and you act differently. And I think absolutely the same thing could go for, if you're in scrubs, if you're in your um, you know police uniform, military uniform, whatever, to get out of it and put on your kind of regular clothes. There's some powerful shifts that can happen there too.
Yeah, and I think too, with recognizing that he does have a hard time decompressing, it's that opportunity, like assess situationally what you do, what your trends are, and then maybe try these different techniques. Like just having awareness that you're having a difficult time decompressing is good. I think that's like the first step. But then it's like, well, what am I doing in that moment, and assessing what you're wearing, what you're listening to, are the windows open? Are the windows closed? You need some fresh air. Are you breathing hard? Are you paying attention to breath or not paying attention to breath? Um, Certainly, I don't have a stressful job in many ways, but I work with people all day long, and it's every hour on the hour. It's a new person and their story and what they're going through, and we're working together. So I'm very much a introverted person at heart, and so to be on all the time for me, it takes a lot of work. So for me, when I decompress on the way home to make sure I don't take anything home with me, like I know I've become aware I need to be in complete silence for like the first half of my drive, where it's just no radio. I'm not saying anything. Like the windows are just down. Even in the winter, I just need a little bit of fresh air because I'm inside all day long. And that for me just has become my routine of, okay, this is how I come down from what I've done all day. And that just happens to work for me. But I think sometimes it's playing with it. If you're aware that you're having difficulty decompressing, try these different strategies and see if just changing one thing could help.
With that, that's a good segue into the next section, because I start talking about like what to do. And so I break this recovery strategies or techniques into 3 different areas. So there's short term, mid-term, and long term. Short term is things that you can obviously do immediately after the stressful event, and then the best example is maybe doing an immediate post-workout stretching routine or foam rolling routine, or of course, as I have listed in my article, some nutrition. So making sure that you're fueling appropriately and you're getting that in, which brings us to our next question from Vinny A, who says, "Thank you for addressing my questions and from the previous weeks. You write that fueling up with a protein shake is sound practice after working out. What would you suggest for a pre-workout snack/meal if I'm coming from work to the gym and it's been a few hours since lunch? Typically, if I'm still hungry, I'll eat an apple and some almonds on my drive over." Lindsay, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So when you're eating something before a workout, you want to think about something that's going to be digested relatively quickly because you can't really use it for energy if it's sitting in your stomach. An apple and almonds are pretty high in fiber. So let's say you had a regular apple, a couple handfuls of almonds, you're at probably around 10 grams of fiber. So a little less than half of your total fiber needs for the day. Fiber takes a long time to digest, so the odds that food will be available for your workout are pretty low. Like you might not feel hungry anymore, and you might have satisfied that, but it's going to take a long time for that to move into your blood sugar or into your bloodstream. So if you like that combination and it's a good, both of those foods are healthy. I really like the Lara bars, which are usually a combination of nuts and fruit, but it's a little bit more like everything's going to be broken down a little bit more. So the fruit is typically dried and the nuts are ground up. So it's less work for your body to do. I mean, imagine you're chewing, then that food has to go into your stomach, then it has to be broken down by mechanical digestion, chemical digestion. The Lara bar sort of kicks that off. It's already done some of the work for your body. They're small. You can even get there. They have mini ones too if you just wanted a little something to tide you over. And it's going to have slightly less fiber, so around 3 grams for the bar, and a little bit more available natural sugar to go into your bloodstream for the workout. So Lara bars, I also like the RX bars, which have the addition of an egg white for a little extra protein. And they also have mini versions of those as well. So I like those. If you don't want to do a bar, a banana is actually a pretty decent snack because it is lower in fiber, a little bit higher in available carbohydrates. So that's another good one.
I like the Lara bars personally, because I do find it is a quick energy after.
Yeah, and I like the RX bars also. So, and you could always, cut them in
Mix it
half
up.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, don't be afraid to, and then you can snack on it too, on your way to the car. Maybe you can start planning it out, and then that'll help also by developing that kind of schedule. And then that way its effectiveness should increase as well.
Yeah, you gotta play around with it and figure out what works for you. It's sort of like cardinal rule of sports nutrition is that it doesn't matter necessarily what I say. If it doesn't work for you, then your body is, maybe a little bit different, and you can play around with things until what you're really achieving is you almost don't want to feel like you have anything in your stomach because you don't want anything to kind of slow you down. Um, we definitely don't want you to poop your pants. So we've got to make sure that we're being cautious about, anything that's hard on the stomach. And then we want you to have enough energy to give it your all and really, be able to make progress in whatever you're doing. So I think that's what we're achieving. And so, yeah, play around with those things and like report back, Vinny. We want to hear if that works for you.
Let us know. Yeah. And definitely not too many pickles. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
That won't work. So that has been well established now. So, but so then you also have midterm strategies and long-term strategies. Midterm strategy would be something like subacute. I guess these are medical words that most of you may not be familiar with. Within a few hours, a day or so, or like towards the end of your workout routine. Towards the end of your day, but like before bed, the things that you're trying to get into the habit of doing that will have an effect not only on whatever you're trying to recover from, but then also just your general life. And then long term, of course, is the more meta version. And like, what's your approach to life and like your schedule and your attack strategy and those kinds of things. So those are the other two areas that you can utilize. Again, you don't have to be perfect at any one of these things, but you should be good at all of them or as many as possible. So don't we are well aware of like the tyranny of choice. And so when you have too many options, it becomes paralyzing. So hopefully we're able to avoid that for you. And of course, you can always reach out and we're always glad to help any way we can. But the point is that you have lots of different options to try so that you shouldn't feel like you're ever stuck, which brings us to our next question from Nick D. He says, "Good morning, FMR family. First, I wanted to let you know how much I'm enjoying the articles and podcasts. I love that you focus on tactical athletes, but I feel that anyone with an interest in working out, diet, or mental health can greatly benefit from listening in." Well, thank you for your kind words, Nick. And that's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we're trying to achieve. So then he goes on to say, "My question is related to stress. What advice do you have for balancing work and home life stress for those now working from home on a temporary or permanent basis? Keep up the good work." I think that this kind of goes into boundaries as well, or, I think that that's probably the best way to summarize this one. It's a little bit different than what Anthony talked about. For him, it's compartmentalizing because of how different his life is, anybody's life is, from the trauma and the gravity of being a first responder. So whereas this is different in that your entire life gets turned into this big soup of, things and different stressors and attention grabbers, and especially if you have kids and, things of that nature, pets that take attention beyond just the fact that you're in your home environment that it takes. So that's what I would say. I would say that you have to have boundaries, whether that's with your spouse or your kids, or you have to, obviously it has to be a give and take both ways, but you have to be able to talk with each other and be able to identify the best way, what works best for your situation or your group, and then be able to identify, okay, I need the morning to myself, or I need a lunchtime hour to myself, or, I need to be productive during these hours, so how can we make that work? Once you identify what you need, then you'll be better able to communicate that to your loved ones, to your workmates, to whomever is impacting your day. and then once, and what you need can be from a work standpoint and from a personal standpoint. And then you can start to say, okay, I'm not getting this, or I'm not being productive enough for my work, or I'm not, I can feel the stress building up. So I need to do something about that.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I found to be helpful is time blocking and sort of putting what you need to do in buckets of like how much time do I need to complete this work task, home task, exercise, whatever, and then where can I fit it in my day so I know, okay, what are you asking for and what's available. So, if you're working with um, you know, a spouse and trying to juggle that, or if you're just kind of trying to figure out your own schedule, I think it helps to say, like, all right, I don't have 8 hours anywhere to put this, and that's how long it's going to take, but I do have 4 2-hour slots. And so can I break it up like that? And I think it helps with stress, at least for me, and I think probably for a lot of people, and stress, anxiety, to just see it written down or in an electronic calendar, and you can see like, okay, like I could do this. I can fit these chunks somewhere, and it's possible, even if it's not how you would do it in a normal like pre-COVID world. You can see like it can work, and that I think gives can give you like peace of mind.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think too, in creating boundaries and recognizing maybe some of the things that have changed, like you might now not have a reason to go outside potentially, like that suddenly, like you had a walk from your car or your train or where however you got to work before. There was this period of time where you stepped outside and you walked into your building and you left your building and went back to your house and things like that. So I think having little moments of go outside, walk around, change your environment here and there. Maybe you used to talk to people and people aren't there to talk to anymore. Like recognizing certain things that change and are some of those things that you are missing. And maybe then it's being creative and figuring out how you incorporate some of those things that were constants before that aren't constants now back into your routine to make it feel more familiar to you. Water breaks. If you always went to the bathroom at the same time, like within reason, like maybe you do that. I think just remembering to get up, move around. Because again, you might just sit at your couch all day or your table all day or your desk all day. And now you're not walking to someone else's desk to talk or anything like that. So get up, move, and again, see what you missed before. And like Lindsay said, how do you put it into your schedule now? And I think writing it down and really seeing like what we have in front of us, I think it's eye-opening. Sometimes people don't recognize how much time they do have once they organize it out. Or sometimes people then can look at it and be like, wow, I'm very booked. How do I make myself less overbooked, and where can I kind of shift things around? So just seeing your life on paper or on a screen takes you out of your head and makes it a little more concrete, and you can then play with it and shift things around.
And that once again reminds me of the fact that first, everything is always worse in your head, always. The second thing is that this is yet another sparkling endorsement for Charlie Gilkey's book, Start Finishing, which is just fantastic. And as a part of that, one thing that Lindsay has said before is that the mistake that folks seem to make often is they don't account for the fact that the necessity of accomplishing family goals or personal goals or even duties in the family, like somebody has to cook dinner, like we don't put that into our schedules often enough. So then when you don't get everything accomplished, it's not because you're lazy or apathetic, it's because you didn't account for these other things that should absolutely be counted, that are concrete things. I have an article and a wonderful graph that I had found online that I've kind of adopted for the FMR system. And it's all about management of stress. You guys can go to the article and check that out. So remember, the blog is free. Obviously, this podcast is free, and you're welcome to watch our videos. We actually have done full introduction videos to the fuel, move, recover system. Each one's about 45 minutes long. Lindsay did one for fuel, Alex did one for movement, and I did one for recovery. And they're open available. We did them for the Ohio Tactical Officers Association conference that we were going to obviously that we were going to participate in and present at in person in June. That wasn't able to occur, but you could still watch the webinars. You're welcome to do that. And one thing that I wrote in my article that I just really want to hit on, and I did it referring to traumatic associations and traumatic events, like difficult events mentally, and that there's lots of different tools that we can help lots of different ways. But at the end of the day, you, as the person who goes through this stuff, you have to have the desire to want to fix whatever you went through. You have to have the courage to act on that desire to fix it. And then you have to be vulnerable enough to ask for help. Like, those things are really important. And so don't be afraid to like ask for help, or to be like, hey guys, I can't go hard today, or like if you're trying to get yourself in shape and it's like I can't, I have to take a day off, that's okay. And then just to bring it home, I love that this quote from Mr. Rogers: if it's mentionable, it's manageable. So if you can say it, then we can work our way through it. So I really like that, especially what's everything going on right now in society. And it can really be easy to feel overwhelmed. Don't forget that, the power of that. And everything's always worse in your head. So with that being said, I think we have to say goodbye to Alex.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm skipping out early today.
So Alex, have a nice weekend. Thank you for joining us.
You guys too.
Yeah, have a good one.
And we will talk to you later.
All right. Take good care, guys.
Bye.
So I really like that quote from, Mr. Rogers, Lindsay, just because it really brings it back to trying to address things and feeling like you're able to get through things if you could just have the courage and the vulnerability to like bring it up,
Yeah, and it's so hard for so many people to acknowledge it, and bring it up.
Well, because the problem is that we deal with this all the time because we're like, quote unquote, like allied health, both dietitians and physios, and because we're in a physician-based model, and I think most of the whole world is like that, actually, not just to blame the U.S. system, but so people only come to us when things are absolutely broken. Like somebody is like type 2 like they go to you once they're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and now they're having neuropathy issues, and now all of a sudden they're at risk of losing their sight, and all these just catastrophically awful consequences of inaction or of just difficulty. This stuff is really hard. I don't think that we give ourselves and our clients enough grace to appreciate that not everybody just knows how to do this stuff.
Yeah, and I think like the way that our system is set up, if it's not covered unless you have a problem, then prevention it's like an extra barrier to prevention.
Yeah.
Well, okay, well I'd love to come see you, but it's going to be $150 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sticker shock too. I think that that's a part of it. I think that most people can afford a little bit more than what they are typical, whatever that number is, it doesn't matter. But the point is that if you're used to only having a $10 copay and you're asked to spend $100, $50, $75, $150, it's like, holy shit, I can't afford that. Or you feel like you're getting jobbed. But really it's what's the price of getting better. It's the quality of the service. There's lots of different things to go into it. It's just that it's sticker shock because you're not used to it, I think,
Right.
or that's a part of it, And then, yeah, like you said, it's that we are utilized when people feel broken, and it's not until you are actually broke that you come see us, and then we're supposed to unbreak you or fix you, quote unquote, and then you go back to never trying to avoid us like we have the plague.
Yeah, I mean, I think hopefully, I mean, this seems to be the way that the system is moving for, healthcare is more preventive, when it's moving over time to like a population health model where,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to the major players are going to be incentivized to prevent instead of treat. So hopefully, but yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, the system definitely plays a role in our ability to really see people through the full circle of, treatment, prevention, and, optimizing.
Mm-hmm. So that brings us to our last question, and it comes from Mark P. And he asks, which mindfulness apps are worth investing in? So, first, are you aware of any, Lindsay, or do you know of any?
The one that I like, that I use quite a bit. Hold on, I have the icon on my phone, and now the name is escaping me. Oh, Headspace. I
Mm-hmm.
like Headspace, and they have like some meditation trainings that are short. Uh, and there's two voices, like a male voice and a female voice, and it's very, they have a lot of really good ways of explaining how meditation and mindfulness can really, lengthen that fuse, so to speak, and change your brain to be, more tolerant and more, resilient. So that's one of my favorites. And they do have a lot of, like they have a free trial, but then right now they have a lot of free memberships. So like, licensed healthcare, professionals. I'm not sure about, veterans or active duty, or first responders. I would not be surprised because that's the type of company that they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would say one, look into that.
Hmm.
Two, two, the majority of the ones that I've seen researching this have some free component.
Hmm.
So almost no matter which one you choose, you should be able to get a hold of one that you can get something out of and try before you have to buy, or if you have to buy at all. Very few of them have a paywall that you have to overcome before you can use it at all. And then the last thing is that they really, most of them are like $50 for a year or $60 for a year or $5 a month. So it's relatively reasonable given the
Benefit. Yeah.
benefits, yeah, that you get from it. So here's a couple. There's the Stop, Breathe, and Think app. And it's cool because when you open it, it'll ask you like how you're feeling that day. And then it will give you recommendations based on how you're feeling. So I thought that that was pretty interesting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's nice, especially if you like don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and which brings us to the next one because it's from the UCLA, and it's called the UCLA Mindful. And the cool parts about it is that because it's from an academic university, it's really, really science based. And it also gives a pretty good introduction to mindfulness training. So you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. And I think that that one's entirely free. So that's cool. Another one is 10% Happier, and it goes way, way, way beyond just meditation practices. They have interviews and they try to get into like the actual science, or the not just the science, but the understanding what you're saying, what you're doing, this kind of thing. It actually, there's a famous case. There's this guy who had a panic attack on the TV, like he was a news anchor, and he had a panic attack during a live broadcast, and he actually is like started this 10% Happier app. So his voice is the one that you hear throughout a bunch of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really, really cool that he's become like a spokesperson for it. And it's also like sometimes it's a little hard to be present because a lot of the leaders in these programs speak a certain way at a certain pace that might be stereotypical to some, and he doesn't really do that. So that might be attractive to some folks. Another one is Calm.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so do I. That's the one I like. The really cool part about it is that they have a wide range of guides, and you're able to it gives you the opportunity to either do meditation, or it'll give you like nature sounds, so then you can just kind of do like your own self-guided thing. Or like, let's say you can't get outside, the weather's really shitty or something, then you can put on some nature sounds, and then you can, kind of zone out and kind of like refocus. It also has a check-in feature, so you're able to kind of keep inventory. Remember how we were talking about earlier today during the episode? We talked about what were we saying, Lindsay, about when we were talking, Mike was asking about
Yeah.
the stress tests. So about taking inventory, this would be a good app for that, because then you can kind of start to see your fluctuations over time.
Oh, I was gonna say there's also, I didn't think about this before. There's a stress management technique called heart math. If anyone's interested in it, where you're getting like kind of like some biofeedback while you're doing it, and it can measure um, some data from your heart to tell you basically your stress hormones are going or they're not, and you can watch it on your screen as you're deep breathing and walking through their exercises. So if you're super like analytical, like a
Mhm.
type A, like numbers person, that's really good. And the only difference with that is it requires a sensor that you attach like to your ear, and then it goes to your phone. That's really cool, and they actually have some really good research, like clinical research on reducing blood pressure, which is, high blood pressure is a indicator of stress, and some other markers.
Yeah, no, that's great. There's a lot of these biofeedback systems that are available now. Like there's Whoop, that's another one. And if anybody's interested, you can get a hold of me at recover@advancingathletics.com, and I can teach you how to calculate heart rate variability. That also takes into account your autonomic nervous system function, and gives you a better idea of how you're waking up, and how your physiological body is doing. And that can be an indicator of your stress levels as well. Uh, another good Another interesting, I should say, because I haven't tried it, mindfulness app is called Portal. It utilizes like the sounds of nature from various places. So it's pretty cool. So I guess you select like Hawaii. And so they have sounds that either they took from there or that mimic that. And then that's a really good way, if you're walking around your neighborhood and it's the same way, you walk through the same place every time, but you kind of want to be taken away from that to have a little bit of that mental peace. That might be something that's useful. Another one's called Simple Habit. And it's really interesting because it gives you meditations for certain life scenarios. So things to do when you have so it gives you meditation guides if you have an argument with your spouse, or if you've just uh, gotten broken up with somebody, or if you're, this is pretty interesting, if you're nervous about a date that you have coming up. So they have what they do is they categorize their meditations based on what you're about to do or what you've been through.
That's pretty cool. And that might help, for people who have a hard time pinpointing their emotions. Like that's pretty black and white. Like I have a date, I got in a fight. Like you may not think like I'm stressed, but I think that's actually pretty clever.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's a great one. I actually might try that one, to see what all topics that they have to offer.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
cool.
yeah. Another one is Insight Timer, and it has like a social media aspect to where you're meditating, and you can see how many people in real time are also meditating are using the app at the same time, as well as how many people are doing the exact same meditation that you are, as well as people around your local area. So there is a very well established science about the benefit of social networks and your friends and developing communities. And loneliness is a really big problem in our society right now, because technology doesn't really if you're not actually engaging in things, then even though you have access to all this technology, you can still feel loneliness. And this is, I think, one way that you could combat that, and that you're doing something communal. You're actually doing something, and then the technology just tells you who you're doing it with, instead of being on your phone and just mindlessly surfing. So instead, it's like you just participated in something. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Insight Timer. When I worked at the clinic, I worked with several health coaches who helped with, stress management, and Insight Timer was a favorite among the group because they do have quite a bit of free material there, so you don't necessarily have to pay for it and or pay for like the premium features, and it's really effective and has that community feel to it.
Yeah, I think it's such an important piece to it. And then the last one I want to mention is called Buddhify.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one too.
And it just has the best name. I just absolutely love that name. So, um, the nice part about these is that almost all of these have meditation guides that are as short as like a minute or 3 minutes, up to like, it seems at a beginner level is about 15 minutes. So, kind of like what Lindsay has mentioned on this episode and other ones about like doing things gently, meaning like kind of working your way in, being a little more conservative. Don't feel like you have to go like do a meditation thing for 70 minutes or whatever, an hour and a half for it to be effective. Even just 3 minutes, even just starting to retune, get reconnected to what your body is feeling, and that's a lot of what these meditation guides are as well, is that they're just telling you, they're just kind of guiding you through, okay, what do you feel in your legs? What do you feel in your body? And it's learning to reconnect with that is pretty awesome, or pretty, can be pretty effective. It's pretty awesome is that the Calm app, they have bedtime stories.
Oh, that's
So
cool. I didn't know that.
yeah, and I have just such a really super duper hard man crush on Matthew McConaughey,
He's great.
and he's one of the authors, or he's one of the narrators, I guess.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I haven't listened to him, but I think I will be tonight. So, and so that's it for the apps, and that's all I have for the article. If you're interested in reading more, haven't read it yet, you can go to advancingathletics.com/FMR, and we have links in our show notes and everything to get to our show and our website and all of our contact information from there. Lindsay, do you have any concluding thoughts or ideas?
No, I think we touched on a lot of good things, and I think stress is like coming more to the forefront of our discussion on health, wellness, disease prevention, that kind of thing. So it's nice that we can kind of hash it out here and help people make some progress.
Yeah, and like I've said before, the good thing is it's all connected. The bad thing is it's all connected.
Yeah.
So, it's, whether you like it or not, it's all going to affect each other, all these different components. So that's it for today's show. We want to thank everybody for listening, and if you want to join our squad, you're more than welcome, and you can get your questions answered on our podcast. If you have submitted questions and you haven't heard your question brought up yet, then keep an eye out for next week's Family Week podcast, and we will be answering any other questions that didn't get answered. The topic for next week will be about sleep. So, all things fuel, all things movement, all things recovery related to sleep. And then at the end, we'll save like a lightning round to answer any of the questions that we haven't gotten into in this like cycle, this content cycle. So now that we've done one fuel article, one move article, one recover article, and then we'll be starting over again in 2 weeks. So you can submit your questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas for us to discuss about sleep and future topics. You also will get discounts on our coaching products. We're launching the store soon. We're just finishing a few loose ends before that goes live. And if you become a Protect and Serve plan member, then you'll be able to have a worthy charity or department or organization mentioned at the end of the podcast, and we shout them out on our website and social media. And of course, we'll also, our Protect and Serve members get to attend any free events that we do in Ohio and beyond, as well as our community guardians contribute to the free seminars we do for first responders. So please give us any feedback that you have. Remember, this is entirely member funded, so it's all about you guys. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of your lives through this podcast and everything else that we do. And don't hesitate to reach out. So until we talk next week, just remember to serve others, but pay yourself. Goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
The Fuel, Move, Recover podcast is a product of Advancing Athletics, LLC. You can follow us on Instagram at Fuel, Move, Recover and Facebook at Advancing Athletics. This podcast is funded by our members at fuelmoverecover.com. Their membership is matched with free seminars on performance and wellness for underserved municipalities in Ohio and beyond. Come join the FMR family to improve your well-being while supporting others. The following departments and charities are the shout-outs of our patrons with Protect and Serve memberships: the Stark County Sheriff's Office, the Task Force Dagger Foundation, Veterans Outdoor Foundation, and the Woonsocket, Rhode Island Police Department.